I'll be back.
And you will know my name is the Lord. I'm walking here. I'm walking here.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Groovy.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Box Office Pulp, your one-stop podcast for movies, madness, and moxie. I'm your host, Cody. Joining me today are my co-host, Jamie. Say hello, Jamie.
I'm glad that there's finally a horror movie out there that delves into the nerve-wracking disgust that comes from somebody else using your sex toys. Because let me tell you, no matter how many times you wash them afterwards, you always knew it was inside somebody else.
See, I thought you were going to say the disgust of having hair, because hair is awful. We should all be very bald.
Oh god, hair, just of all the things from the old world that needs to be removed, it's like deity worship and hair.
Yep, make me just smooth and shiny. Also, say hello to my other co-host, Mike. How's it going, Mike?
Good baristas are hard to come by. So seeing
True.
one wasted with murder most foul, because it's a barista, a good barista, who is chatty but not too chatty, but always knows your specials. Seeing that wasted is possibly the most villainous thing ever committed to film.
I really appreciate that, 2 minutes before we started this intro, we're all like, we agree. No spoilers until after the warning. And then Mike immediately starts with a spoiler.
You shouldn't have said it to me. That's the problem. You set me up.
Don't take the cookie, Mike. Oh no, he's taking the cookie. It's what I wanted. Ha ha ha.
He's flushing the cookie down the toilet. Not only is that wasting the cookie, no one's eating the cookie, it's going to back up the toilet.
Just a mess. What a mess you've made, Mike. For shame. Folks, sorry about that. You've been very lightly spoilered for the new movie, The Stylist, which has just premiered. I think it's exclusively on Arrow's streaming platform right now. I think that's the only place you can find it. I've been hearing great things about that platform. I think you can get a free 7-week trial just for basically going to their website. So highly recommend that. The film itself, last thing I'll say before we jump into spoilers, pretty good. Right? I think we're all in agreement on that one.
Yeah, very good.
Pretty
This is our quick
Box
non-spoiler
office
review. Is
recommend.
just saying it's good. We can talk
Pretty
about
neat.
spoilers.
It's too late. They've already listened to you spoil the opening. Folks, if you want a little bit more than that, the film centers around a hairstylist who seems mild-mannered, but at night, I can't say anymore because of spoilers. I'm already trapped. Mike, would you consider the first 2 minutes of the film a spoiler?
I mean, I'd like to think someone is able to watch a trailer.
People get mad about trailers now. I know plenty of people that will walk out of a room if a trailer's playing. They go
The
off
trailer
like
of
a
this
teaser
movie does
poster.
not give anything away, in my opinion.
All right. Sinister Stylist. We'll say that much. Go watch the movie.
Sisters.
That's a terrible description.
I hope someone from the film listens to this.
No, they'll be embarrassed. They'll think I'm an idiot. Well, I guess it's good to have that out in the open. Anyways, I'm assuming you've all returned now from having watched the film. We can get into spoilers. A better description of the film, I think the first thing that came to my mind was Psycho. But in that film, the whole twist that Norman Bates is actually a psychopath and he's murdering people is the big twist at the end. That's what you're building towards. In this movie, the fact that the stylist is actually a murderer is revealed in the first couple minutes of the film. It's never a shock. It's never played up to be just psychological. Is it all in her head? It's kind of like watching a movie about the Titanic. You know where it's going, and part of the thrill is watching that final collision.
Well, The Stylist finds itself neatly between two overlapping subgenres, which I really enjoy. In horror, which are the introverted girl slowly loses her mind movie, and the serial killer's last hurrah movie, which are two subgenres that do have a lot of overlap and have a very familiar pattern that this movie exploits very well. I think Mike said it best whenever we first watched this film. Movies like this are just slow motion train wrecks where you pretty much have the idea of exactly where it's going within the first few minutes, but all of the tension comes from knowing that the dominoes are going to fall no matter what you do and just being powerless to stop any of it as just a passive viewer.
Yeah, it's where the
It reminds
tension comes
me,
from.
for sure. It reminds me a little bit of like the format and the joy of watching like a Tales from the Crypt episode, so anything EC Comics, where that you know what the final ghoulish twist is going to be, but knowing it doesn't ruin the fun. Obviously, a Tales from the Crypt episode is super uh, camp. You know, it's very funny. It's intentionally so. This one is played more seriously, but it still has that kind of ghoulish twist at the end that you're waiting for. You know it's coming, and that's to me the fun of it. Just getting to finally see that reveal.
Yeah, exactly how it unfolds. There was a genre of horror movie in the 70s and a little bit in the 80s, but it kind of predates slashers, where it's more of inside the demented mind type of movies. Stuff like Maniac, what is it, Afraid of the Dark or whatever it is. When a Stranger
Yeah.
Calls is a really great one that this actually reminds me more of this than even Maniac.
Maybe When
Where
a Stranger Calls Back, a little bit of the second one, the second half of that movie, anyways, when it dives into their weird Hannibal-esque serial killer.
Yeah. 'Cause that was a time where there was an examination of the killer as the main character, but not in an exploitive way. It was just this, you enter kind of this world of madness, and that's really where the horror comes from. There's a little bit of sympathy for the killer, but you know it's going to end badly. You kind of know where it's going to end up. And this was like a great harkening back to that type of movie, as I'm fascinated by that genre that just existed for this very short period of time. And Stylist does a really amazing job of going back to that very delicate balancing act that those movies did, of having sympathy for what is essentially a monster, but without falling over the edge into, full on protagonist territory where you necessarily feel them. It's going for an understanding, and that's kind of where the horror of it comes from, is just knowing what they're capable of and seeing their struggle. And there's something, the more you get to know them as a person trying not to kill. It's the same for Maniac. When a Stranger Calls, to me, was really great about this, because that played the killer as very sympathetic, where a lot of it is the struggle of you feeling that you want the character to actually overcome their own deficiencies, their own evil and killer instinct, and seeing them fall further and further actually becomes hard to watch as the plot goes on.
It makes me think of, the idea behind a Greek tragedy is that each character has a tragic flaw, which is what undoes them in the end. Even if they're a decent person, they just have, let's say, too much pride. This one, I don't know if I would say it's one of those films where it's just, oh, if only, she didn't do X, everything would have worked out fine. This one, it always seems like it's building to a dark ending, and there's no escape from that.
Yeah.
What it really reminds me of, actually, when I was thinking about this earlier, was George Romero's Martin.
Yeah.
It really sticks with me that these two would be pretty good back to back. Just the idea of it's people that don't quite fit in, but they still have to ingratiate themselves with others because, one, they want to, and two, it allows them to kind of express their darker desires. And boy, there's just so much in Martin where he's a very sympathetic character, and you know what's going to happen. You know it's going to be that twist in the end where he thinks he's a vampire, so he gets a stake through the heart. It's almost foregone when you start the movie. You just know it has to go that way. You start a movie called The Stylist, and the killer's MO is scalping people and putting on their hair. You've got a pretty good idea that any big social function she's working for is not going to end up well. It's not foreshadowing. I don't know what the literary term for it would be. It's doom, I guess.
It's kind of like a character as a Chekhov's gun. Like that first scene,
Yeah.
she goes up on the
yeah.
mantelpiece, and then you just wait.
Let's check off Psycho.
And I will say, the thing that really got to me about this movie, we've talked about the ending quite a bit, which is a great place to start, is just, one, there's a lot of anxiety for me getting my hair cut. I absolutely hate getting my hair cut. I bought my own razor during the whole pandemic deal as an excuse so I would never have to go get my hair cut again by a professional. Not that they do a bad job. I just find it incredibly unnerving to have to talk to these people that are talking to 40 other people they don't care, or having the same conversations over and over. And it's a little too intimate. Like, they got their hands running through your hair and stuff, and they're close to you. They've got scissors. I don't like it. So for this movie, it's like, oh God, oh no, they do want to kill me.
I was so happy during that opening scene because I had never seen filmmaking captured the unsettling intimacy of a haircut before.
Especially whenever women are cutting the hair of other women, because a salon is such an, at times, overly familiar and overly intimate setting, even compared to like just regularly having your hair cut. Uh, there's a certain like unwanted invasion because like every single hairstylist usually wants to know about your personal life while they're like, holding your life in their hands.
Yeah,
Like,
I went to a barber shop where they do a straight razor shave, and it's the same deal. So the woman's like, "Oh, just relax." I'm like, "I don't know. This seems like a bad idea. You've got a wet cloth over my face, and then you're pressing a razor against me, and I can't
I've
see
seen
it."
Dracula.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know what you're up to behind that cloth, but I don't like it. Plus, I
Something
didn't think
great.
it was fair. Is it a normal thing when you go to get your hair cut that they're giving out glasses of wine? Because I've apparently been going to the wrong place.
At some lady salons, yes. I'm pretty sure any of the barbershops that you and I frequent, Cody, will not going to give out glasses of wine, though I cut my own
The
hair.
last place I went to was like a car dealership. Like they gave out little mini bottles of water while you're in the waiting room, but I think that's as far as it went.
Yeah, the tone in like more upscale, like rich white lady salons is very bachelorette party, which because always makes me immediately uncomfortable.
White lady is yeah, that's the thing to zero in on with of these type of places. Rich white lady.
Which is another thing I thought was very interesting about this movie's perspective, because it doesn't really go into like any kind of like racial or like class territory with its story. Like Claire isn't necessarily presented as this super put upon like have not who's like lost in this world of rich, trendy, upscale people. Like, there's a little bit of that and stuff like the club sequence later on, but I like how it's never really presented as like here's this poor person like going into this world she doesn't belong and being scary. I like how the alienation that this movie plays with comes from a place that's so much deeper than that. Because that movie could have easily gone to that direction and been perfectly fine, but there's something so much more rewarding that it's about alienation and isolation that surpasses even like class structures or like any kind of societal walls. Like Claire is isolated and uncomfortable about people and uncomfortable around other people for reasons we never fully know, but we can tell that whatever those reasons are go right down to her soul. And now she's in an environment where no one is going to be sensitive of that. I like how the horror like comes from that.
And we get those, I would say, pretty relatable moments too, where after she feels like she's goofed up somehow, she'll retreat back to a private area and have a small breakdown where she's accusing herself of being so stupid. And then after that, she has to lash out and almost try and take someone else's identity. There's that wish to kind of be someone else to escape from yourself.
Yeah.
I'm not confessing to any scalpings or murders.
Yeah.
I should start the statement with that next time. But it's very
Cody's
relatable,
gotten rid of all of his mannequin heads. Don't worry. We have
all
that
but
on tape.
All but one. But there's, I mean, that's just human, right? Like you fuck up and you just know, like, oh, I said something so dumb back there. Everyone hates me. They don't want to talk to me anymore. And you just wish you could be someone else so you could just start fresh. Like just go into a witness protection program and start your life over because you said something stupid on a Zoom call.
The scalping stuff was an interesting kind of extension of a lot of like hardcore crippling social anxiety of wanting to escape and be somebody and wanting to be somebody different, just taken to this like extreme abhorrent place of definitely all stemming from somewhere, but it's presented in for people with social anxiety or inability of social cues and whatnot. It's coming from a place that you can kind of recognize. And what was so like amazing to me about kind of the final scene is before what happens and she's just cutting the little girl's hair. It's a very quiet little moment that you're not even really focusing on. The movie itself isn't really focusing on that happening. And there's no sense of danger to her cutting the little girl's hair or anything. And you clearly There's nothing else going through her mind. She's just doing kind of a nice thing that comes natural to her, of just being nice and being attentive.
Yeah.
And it's
She has
tragic
her
in a
moments. It's
way.
not like she's always a monster, which I like. There's different
Yeah,
modes to it where it's soft, and then it's only when there's that break, that schism that happens.
but it's this almost tragic moment before she commits this other murder that crescendos the film, where, oh, that's her, but she's incapable of seeing that's her. And that's what's so fucking sad about it right before she then tries to become somebody else once again. It's like she just could see herself, but in her darkest of moments, she's only ever to go into that room beneath her house and try to see herself as other people because she cannot see her own self.
Right. That opening scene is kind of the thesis for the entire thing. We always want what we don't have, even
Yeah.
though, hey, you might actually have it. You can't see it.
Yeah, one interesting change that I noticed between the 2016 short film that inspired this and the final product is in the short film, Claire has these terrible burns across her neck and the side of her face that you see her like trying to cover up and feeling very self-conscious about at the end, which works fine for the short film. Like it's a very clear, like, okay, I don't need a backstory. Like I can psychologically connect the dots here. But I was reading an interview with the director, Jill Six, who said the reason she and the writers dropped that was because it was sending the opposite message to the audience that they were wanting to send. With the scarring, that's saying, oh well, this person is unconventionally hurt and deformed in a way that the audience understands is out of the ordinary and would give anybody like social anxiety. With the scarring removed, it is 100% psychological, because the idea they were going for wasn't that there was something like very visibly like wrong with Claire. She is perfectly fine the way she is perfectly likable and perfectly attractive. There's nothing unusual about her at all. But again, like you said, her inability to see that leads to her monstrous behavior. So it's less a movie about like someone who's broken trying to fit in with society and that brokenness leading to murder. It's more just about like shitty body image and
Yeah.
shitty self-realization.
That's a great point. I do like that a lot, because think of how many movies there have been where it's the hideous, ugly witch or evil, ugly person is really the monster. Every deformed slasher out there. And no, I mean I love those movies, but it's kind of nice to see one where it's not a physical deformity that makes you think, oh, this person must be messed up. The actress who plays Claire, Nahara Townsend, is a beautiful woman, so it's just one of those things where it's, oh, it must be something else entirely, some sort of past trauma or who knows what. But it wasn't it's something as bad as, oh, she looks different than us, therefore everyone hates her, or she perceives it that way.
And I think it would be kind of easy to say this may be like a poor representation of real mental illness. But I would argue, and just to address that, not that I don't think anybody's brought this up, but I do think it's an interesting thing to address, that while yes, the character does murder, but comes from a place of clearly very realistic mental illness, I do think it's an interesting extension of reality into kind of unreality to show in this very horrific way what people feel who deal with that.
Well, it's a good way to juxtapose Claire's altered perception of herself, possibly,
Yeah.
versus the perception the audience has, without having to do something really, really bold, big in your face, and kind of obnoxious. It's a great step to kind of have those two contrasts.
Yeah, I really appreciate how much real world like psychology goes into like Claire's portrayal as a serial killer. I like how you don't get the impression that there's this giant bloodbath going on that you're only catching glimpses of. Like any other serial killer, it seems like Claire kills people every now and then.
Yeah.
On occasion, when
And
things build up too much.
like any other product killer, she doesn't seem to take any pleasure whatsoever out of actually hurting people. Like her fixation is entirely just on the body and what the scalping represents to her.
Yeah. It's sad. Like I think that's what's so interesting to me about it, and as kind of a play up of very real mental illness is that it's sad. Like when she kills people, there's no kind of splatter joy in it. Um, it never feels exploitive necessarily.
It's like a
The
coping
first kill is
mechanism.
the first kill is the closest you get to it because you don't know her yet. But as it goes on, it's sad whenever she kills, not just because, and not just sad for the life she's taking, but you almost feel like she wants to stop so badly, but she can't.
She wasted a perfectly good barista. But no, going off of that, it's like these people aren't all people that have wronged her, that are bad people or anything. Some were sympathetic to her, some were nice, some were just normal people. And it's just wrong place, wrong time kind of positioning, I think, for a lot of the victims, which is interesting.
Oh, it's so tragic to watch those scenes between her and the barista at the beginning of the movie and like be able to tell clearly if she just sat down and talked to this woman, they'd probably go on a date together and have a good time.
Plus, and we do get the sense that Claire isn't killing these people for fun in any sense. It's not like she's having a hell of a good time ripping their heads off. The fact that she knocks them unconscious to the point where they don't even notice that they're being skinned kind of shows, I would say, some level of sympathy towards her victims.
Yeah.
You know, she feels like she has to do this, but it's not. The cruelty isn't the point.
Well, it's strange. She's killing them because she appreciates them so much.
Yeah, which is interesting because one of the girls in the wedding party makes fun of her, and then when she goes to try and kill her, it doesn't come to fruition. So it's like the one time where it's actually like a revenge killing is when it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love how there's absolutely no cathartic violence in this movie, which is something I always kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth if you're not going for like pure turn off your brain fun. I like that there's not a big moment of Claire like settling the score with somebody where like the audience is on their side. Like Mike said, it's always the worst thing in the world when she kills.
Olivia was taking her husband from her the whole time. It was a long con.
Yeah, like I even like with the side plot with the barista, people miss that character, and her absence leaves a hole in the world. And Claire is surrounded by reminders that she took someone's life for no good reason.
Yeah. And when she dresses up like the hooker to go hunt, essentially, after that is when she has like a complete breakdown. Like it doesn't release anything for her. Like I think that's what's so interesting about how murder is handled is it's ultimately always empty for her afterwards. Like she puts on the hair and tries to pretend to be somebody else, but it never works. It never does anything. It's just always empty, and she gets more and more frustrated. That's why she tries so hard to stop. She tries to make it symbolic with the way she stops, with the key and closing everything off, but it's still just there underneath, just rotting away at her.
I do have to say, I think we need to celebrate and applaud, though, that Claire was smart enough to figure out how to avoid all the stress of wedding planning. You just show up as the stylist and then replace the bride last second. You don't get to make the choices, sure. You don't get to pick the dress, but just think, you don't have to hire the caterer. You don't have to pay for all that stuff. You don't have to worry about the RSVPs or choosing the cake. Actually, choosing the cake's probably the fun part. I don't know. I've never been in the position to be married, so I don't know what the cake tasting process is, but I assume it's kind of fun. But most of it seems like a hassle. So really, hats off to Claire for gaming the system.
My dream is now to steal someone's wedding. It's the ultimate con.
You want a corpse bride it, Jamie?
It'd been awesome if no one noticed.
They just rolled with
Surprise, bitch, we're married now. Give me alimony. This is the third time this has happened to me, god dang
it. Just imagine she stole his glasses. So he's like, oh, this is how it is. Like Mr. Magoo in this situation. It's just, whoa, I guess I'm married now to a new woman. Our version of the film would not be very good.
No, not at all. Not at all. I want to bring up like a little like writing point that I really liked in the movie, like super early on. It's when Olivia, you're first introduced to Olivia, and she's running, and she comes home, and her fiance had gotten her a treadmill so she wouldn't go out so much, and that way she can just run at home. She doesn't take it because she likes going out to run. Like that's her thing. She has no interest in the treadmill. And that is such an amazing, subtly deft piece of writing because it says so much about why Claire is so obsessed with Olivia in many ways. Claire has no sense of self, sense of where she is, and she can be so easily molded based on what other people want, and Olivia's steadfast and confident and is where she wants to be. And using just that one little treadmill scene is able to like communicate all of that. I'm so impressed with that little bit of writing.
Yeah, in a movie that never goes too deep with any characters like backstories or internal thoughts, there are so many like nice moments like that where a couple of sentences speaks volumes about the characters and where they come from. Like I love the moment between Claire and Olivia towards the end where Claire has like upped her creepiness factor to a noticeable degree after that sequence in the nightclub, and Olivia tries to explain to her why she's being weird, with the understanding that she's clearly the kind of person that doesn't understand social boundaries.
Yeah.
Which says so much about Olivia as a person, that she's not stupid enough to not notice that this person is clearly troubled and doesn't understand social situations, but she doesn't read anything sinister about that. She just, when the evidence is presented, she comes to the conclusion that this person is very different and just needs a stern talking to. And I like how in any other movie, it would be so easy to just have Olivia be an idiot who doesn't notice the very strange person in her midst, or just do the easy scene of, and then she yells at her and calls her stupid and she runs away crying.
Yeah.
Like, again, it adds so much to the eventual tragedy of the death, and also just gives you yet another scene of Claire having an easy out. Like, this is a character who has opportunities to change her life and have real relationships with people and get help. But every time she's met with one of these situations, she just doubles down on everything.
I was too distracted by the numerous times Claire was in someone's house she shouldn't be in to pay attention to good writing, because I was too like, get out of the house! What are you doing? I don't care what movie it is. If someone goes into a house they don't belong in, I'm always like immediately putty for that film. Like, oh God, no, it's too uncomfortable. I don't know. It just goes in my head. I have no good excuse to get out of that situation. I would not be able to bluff my way out of being like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm in your house. I thought it was mine. Like, I couldn't do it.
Just,
I thought I saw a cat
rear window.
Like, yeah, I couldn't do it. I'd just be like, I have to kill you just because this is too embarrassing for all of us.
James Stewart made me do it. Every time I watch scenes like that, I'm constantly thinking of ways that I wonder how I could talk myself out of this kind of situation.
I couldn't do it. I just know. I haven't even thought about it that hard because I know I'd fuck it up. I can't. I would just be, they would kill me there and be like, well, I stood my ground.
Now, what you do whenever a stranger walks in on you masturbating in their bed is you turn to them coldly and say, this is my house. I think you need to leave. Just what do they say to that?
You just assert dominance.
Like, just go full Mulholland Drive on them.
I think you should just be aloof. Like, you know what? You caught me. I don't belong here.
I'm the Midtown masturbator. You'll never take me alive.
There's nothing, you know what? I'll leave, but just let you know, it's really easy to get into your house, and I think you should probably do something about that.
That's right. Yeah,
You're
make
welcome.
it their fault. Good way to victim blame in that case. Just make them feel bad that you're breaking into their house, and that's how you escape.
That's so good.
Do you think that would have worked in Monster House? Do you think like they like the house would let them go if they shamed the house?
Why do you eat so much?
Wow.
That shamed the house?
Listen, I think I love Monster House. Let's all agree. Little problematic.
Okay, we got to get away from Monster House. I don't want to talk about that anymore tonight.
Okay.
Mike is so disappointed. He had like 20 minutes of material already prepped.
So good. One thing I would love to see more from horror films is characters invading people's homes, but not for sinister reasons. There is some, like, a character going into a house and just fucking around with stuff is so much scarier than there's a dude with a knife who's going to stab somebody.
I think I've told you guys a story before, where the guy I hated the most in my life, Patrick, just walked into my apartment one time and just hung around because he didn't realize I was in there.
Oh, God.
So the full story of it is, I was in my house I was sharing it with a roommate, and I was just in my room with the door closed, like the lights off. I don't know, like taking a nap or something. And I hear the door open, and the door closes, and I don't hear like light switches flipping on or anything. I don't hear like my roommate. He doesn't say hello. He doesn't. It's just obviously not my roommate. It's just spooky quiet. Like someone is just now standing in the house because they realized the door was open. They could just walk in. And so I'm now terrified because I've kind of woken up from a nap and I'm just like in my room, like I'm not going out there. And this standoff goes on for 5 or 10 minutes when I eventually hear a different door open, like the side door opens and closes. My roommate Bob gets back, like an hour later, and I ask him like, "Hey, did you stop back, like forget your keys or something?" And he's like, "No, I haven't been home since like this morning." And we just found out that like, yeah, if we didn't lock the door, there was a guy who could just like walk in, kind of hang around, just waiting for you to show up. So we had someone to talk to, and it was the goddamn scariest shit of my life.
Cody, I just want to. I'm very sorry to break this to you, but you died that night.
Oh, so that explains the everything. This is definitely hell.
Yeah.
Satan, he's pretty clever. I like he Truman showed me. I really wouldn't expect a pandemic in my hell. That's clever. I thought like more brimstone. This guy's got it.
You put a pandemic in my hell. You put a hell in my pandemic.
Why am I getting the goober of hell? So yes, anytime I see a scene like this in a movie where someone sneaks into someone else's house, I'm always like, oh god, I know this fear. Like I have felt it. This is awful. It's like you can't quite imagine what a car crash is like until you've been in one, and then it's like, oh, these are the worst. No one should be in car crashes. Why do we allow this?
I thought they were cool before.
I mean, James Bond makes them look pretty cool.
Oh, you got me there.
So, before we wrap up, there's one thing I do want to talk about. As we talked a lot about like the movie from a screenwriting standpoint. I am in love with how randomly gorgeous this film is, both with its cinematography and its score.
And I have to assume this couldn't have been like a $10 million picture or anything either. I have no idea what the actual budget is, but I'm always impressed when something looks very well produced and is made very confidently for low budget. Watch, I'm gonna be proven wrong. Someone's gonna be like, I don't know, she won a lottery and someone gave her like $15 million. But I'm pretty sure that wasn't the case.
This movie was funded on Kickstarter.
Really? Another Kickstarter one?
Mm-hmm. It's even more impressive.
Right?
Yeah, it's so, like you said, confidence, like in the way it's directed. It's so damn good.
I would have to watch it again. I've only seen it the one time, so I could very easily be mistaken on this. But my recollection is there's very little to none of like handheld shaky cam kind of stuff. It
I don't
or at least
remember
it
any.
doesn't feel like it in my memory. I just remember very steady shots, which it feels like in my mind would be harder to do, probably more time consuming to plan out. Whereas the freeform version of just put the camera out there and kind of walk around, get the shot, and it doesn't matter if you don't even have the steady cam going or something's fine. What wasn't this feeling I got? I'll probably watch this again, realize I'm an idiot for saying all that, but I think that's what owed to my sense of confidence in this picture. Like it was shot very much like, no, we know what the shots should be, and this is how we're going to get them.
Yeah, the way every environment is lit, I really love too. From Claire's murder basement, which is just stark with lights coming in, like it's just a dilapidated cathedral essentially. The club
It's a layer.
is,
That's definitely a layer, which I love.
yeah. The club is the way it's lit, the way the sound is designed, the way the camera is used. It's uncomfortable, just so perfect.
God, and all the horror in this movie, that club sequence is the most uncomfortable, scary thing in this.
Yeah. Oh god, my heart was like racing the entire time. I didn't even know why.
Yeah, few movies can have really captured the horror of going to a party where you don't know anybody.
Yeah.
Where you're clearly not supposed to be there and everyone is confused why you're there in the first place, but you can't just leave.
And there's not even like a dog or a cat you can play with.
Yeah, you really need a dog or a cat in this situation, or at least a hamster, something.
I don't think hamsters would fare well inside of parties like that, but
It depends if their tubes are high up.
so that's just like the theme of the place. Like you go and you get drinks and you look up in the ceiling, it's just a big hamster city.
Yeah. I love that.
Right.
I would be down for that.
I feel like they need to play softer music so it doesn't disturb the hamsters, but I see potential there.
Just think, if Olivia had just invited them all to PetSmart, all that tragedy could have been avoided.
Why don't we have a Pet Cemetery set in a PetSmart? This is an aside, but it bothers me. It feels like an obvious thing to
that would
do
be a
about
good
Pet
sequel.
Sematary
Maybe it's
3.
that prequel that's coming up. Oh, so who's going to take care of her dog?
You know, I hadn't even thought about it, but now the real tragedy comes forward.
Maybe Olivia's fiance will adopt him as kind of like a tit for tat thing.
I like to think so. He seems like a good dude.
Oh, that's an interesting point, though, Mike. How many of these films, like this kind of genre film, do we have people that own pets and that aren't like
almost none
taxidermied animals, like in the Psycho reign,
where nothing happens to the animal either? Like it's
right, yeah, they're
Buffalo Bill.
You know, right, yeah, they're not there to they're not there to like harm the pet or hurt the pet to prove a story writing point or anything. They just have a pet that they love, like a normal person.
Yeah, it's amazing shorthand for Claire. Just like, yeah, she takes care of the dog, and dog loves her, and it's just nice.
That was the whole exercise. Like, kick the kitten. That's what they were doing. Just it's a litmus test of the character's worth. That's why we're sympathetic. She doesn't hurt the dog.
I like that dog.
Mike, can we end every review session with you talking about how much or how little you liked the pet in the film?
Cody, I'm always going to like the pet.
Always? There's got to be some bad pets in film. We're getting very far away from the Stylist.
No, there's no such thing as a bad pet.
The hyenas and the Lion King.
No, I like the hyenas and the Lion King.
They goose-stepped, Mike.
Other than that. Yeah, but you know what? They would have gone along with anybody's orders.
I don't think that's a great defense.
The hyenas were just following orders. Mike Napier, 2021.
I'm going to stick with the idea that the hyenas weren't pets. I'm going to get off of this topic now because I feel like it's already gone very far south. Anyways, I guess to get us away from talking about if hyenas are suitable pets and... Well, no, actually that's answered. Birds of Prey answered that hyenas can be good pets. I just think the Lion King's hyenas are not good pets.
Those were hired guns. That's different.
True. Yeah.
Those
they were independent contractors.
Animals. They have no soul.
Right. Yeah. That's what I was saying originally, Mike. We came around. You're on my side now.
They're the black water of the animal kingdom.
That's true. That's why I don't like them. Anyways,
they're having a good time though.
we're getting so far away from the Stylist. Folks, if you didn't heed my warning and go watch the movie at the start of the podcast, I don't know what you're doing here. That's weird. Go watch the film. Or if you've seen it already, I don't know, go watch it again. Since it's streaming, you can just keep plugging that guy on over and over again. It's awesome. I do like that about streaming. I do feel bad when you love a movie in the theater and then you're like, God damn it, I'm at home now and I can't just watch it again.
Yeah, you can catch it now on Arrow's new streaming platform, which I think just launched in October. It's apparently already in like their top 5, so Stylist is gaining some traction.
Sequel. I don't know what it would be. But, I'd be down.
Stylists with an S, and this time it's an action film.
Yeah. They go like the night.
They go to the layer of the Stylist. There's a Queen Stylist. There's Drone Stylist. There's a mech loader. Got a lot of good ideas for the sequel.
I know the director is a huge fan of cheesy 90s profession-based slasher movies like The Dentist and Dr. Giggles. So I would love to see The Stylist 2 that's just like completely abandons the tone of this first movie and it's just about Claire being like a cackling madman just cutting people up left and right.
That's true. Claire's still loose. For all we know, she got away with it.
They couldn't find her. She had that new skull on.
It's true.
Everyone at home,
we can't
just
see
think.
Her.
She could be cutting your hair tomorrow. Or the
not
next
during a
day.
pandemic.
Yeah, well, I don't know. People still get their hair cut. They wear the mask while their hair's getting cut.
Yeah, well, they shouldn't.
It's not for me, but people do it. Anyways, that's Box Office Pulp. I don't think I can say anything else without sounding much dumber than I already sounded. So thank you so much for joining us, folks. We really dug the movie, if you couldn't tell. It's out now, so go ride the wave and enjoy it while everyone else is still talking about it. If you've enjoyed this episode of Box Office Pulp, you can find more episodes on boxofficepulp.com. We're also on Twitter at Box Office Pulp. I know, very creative. Give us a like, give us a listen. You can rate us on iTunes, Stitcher, you name it. You can rate us at home and just put it on like a dartboard. I don't care. I'll feel it. I'll feel good.
We're on Amazon Music, too.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah. The list keeps growing.
You can find us.
Thank you, folks.
You can't escape us.
That's also true.
We're coming to your home, and your home, and yours.
Keep watching the skies. I don't know.
We'll also be cutting your hair tomorrow. Anyways, that's Box Office Pulp. Get the hell out of here.
And like that, he's gone.
Box Office Pulp guy worked in a barber shop for a couple of weeks, but they fired him after he kept drinking that blue stuff that they put the combs in.
Box Office Pulp guy's a stylist, but mostly just of armpit hair.
Box Office Pulp ate all the hair on the floor.
Box Office Pulp guy's nickname is the Dustpan.
Box Office Pulp guy didn't even work there. He just would come in on all fours and start eating hair.
You should see the bazaar that's in Box Office Pulp guy's stomach.
Box Office Pulp guy's stomach contents cannot be digested.
Box Office Pulp guy invested in the mouth vacuum that was supposed to come out in 1999.
Oh, too far. It's my personal headcanon that Box Office Pulp guy has so much hair in his stomach that he's making his own bazaars.
Just spitting them out and selling them to the highest bidder.
That's how he makes his
Here you
money.
go. Summon a demon.
I've missed this bit. This is a good bit. We should do this bit.
Yeah, it was nice to bring back. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you.
This is Box Office Pulp Guy, and this has been a Pulp Podcast production. Now please, 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 put a gun in my mouth and pull the trigger and say goodnight.
And now, on with the show.